323 regular season MLS games are in the books. The 2012 regular season is done. The playoff field is set. We know what's going to happen. We know who's facing who. Jonah Friedman here with armchair analyst Matt Doyle. And we are here to wrap up the weekend in a nice, tidy little bow for you with the top three matches of the weekend. We will start at number 3 with the Philadelphia Union hosting kind of a must-win for the New York Red Bulls.
It was a must-win for them, I think, because they needed to have as many home games as possible to have a shot. And man, did they play well. This was probably their best performance front to back of the season and their second strong defensive performance in a row. Yeah, they did allow a couple of breakouts to Jack McInerney, but Luis Robles came up big again. The back line looked in sync. This is totally what you would not expect from a team with a lame duck manager and had all those changes. But it seems to be clicking. And if you talk about momentum heading into the playoffs, the Red Bulls have got it. They've also got a healthy Thierry Henry, and you know what we've said about that all year. If he's healthy, if he's fired up, if he's playing well, they have a shot against anyone. The number 2 game of the weekend slate, Mr. October, Mike Magee.
That is a really good nickname for Mike Magee. I'm going to tell him that that's our proposal. Anyway, the Galaxy did not need a result in this one. They knew that they were locked into that number 4 seed. They're hosting the knockout round game against Vancouver. Seattle, they knew that RSL's point meant that if they did not get a point here, they were going to finish in that number 3 spot. And that's exactly what happened after the Galaxy get a pretty big 1-0 win thanks to a Mike Magee. It's a golazo, right? Mr. October
I would say so.
In the 83rd minute. And that was thanks to Robbie Keane, who did not get on the score sheet in this one. But the guy has been so on fire since the Euros. He has 13 goals in 18 games. He was a terror on that Seattle backline. And when he's heating up going into the playoffs, things look very good for the Galaxy. And also good news for the Galaxy, they got Landon Donovan for 90 minutes. Good sign for him. Playing at left mid, actually, not playing up front where he's been for the most of the season, over the last few months anyways. And David Beckham going a little over an hour, also great for the Galaxy. Not so good for the Sounders because they lose Jeff Park and Eddie Johnson to hamstring injuries. Still trying to find out what the extent of that is. But if the Sounders are missing EJ for these playoffs, it's going to be very tough for them because between him and Freddie Montero, those two have scored more than half of Seattle's goals. Going to be a big problem for them going in the playoffs against RSL again. Number 1, the old powers clashing at Toyota Park. It was the Fire at DC United.
It was a game that lived up to the 14 years of history these two teams have together. And Bill Hamid had one of the great displays by a goalkeeper this year. He absolutely owned Shergill McDonald. A great save on a breakaway in the first half, a point-blank save in the second half, and tipped over the bar, I think 2 minutes into stoppage time. It was just a comprehensive performance. The only time he was beaten, a golazo, no doubt about that one, from Patrick Nyarko. And that might be the key for the Fire. Does Patrick Nyarko get on the scoreboard in the conference playoffs? If he does, then they're a tough team to defend because they have a lot of weapons. If he doesn't, it pretty much comes down to Chris Rolfe having to put the ball into the net. As for DC, they finished 3rd in the overall standings on the season. That means if either Kansas City or San Jose make the MLS Cup, then DC gets the leftover CONCACAF Champions League spot. So that's how Real Salt Lake got in this year. So it's really a bounce back for DC after 4 years out of the playoffs. The old power rising in the East.
Take a look at our top 3 performers of the week. Kai Kamara with 2 big assists in a win for Kansas City in midweek. Federico Higuain getting a brace in Columbus's season finale, unfortunately missing the playoffs. And as we said, Bill Hamid, huge, with 8 saves against Chicago.
Yeah, as we said, Hamid was just monstrous. And if he plays like that in the playoffs, DC is going to be tough to beat. Higuain, finally healthy again. I think that knock he picked up about 4 games and slowed him down. But now that he's 100%, you could see he's going to be an absolute force in 2013. And Kai Kamara, if you're going to beat Kansas City, you have to match him physically. And they absolutely did not match him physically. He was shrugging people off left and right, was the player of the game, really. Just a comprehensive two-way performance. He's in the box clearing balls out and set pieces as well. He was a monster.
And let's give some honorable mentions out there for Player of the Week, Kenny Cooper with 2 goals, even though Thierry Henry said, he played all right. And also David Ferreira with 2 big assists for FC Dallas in that 2-2 draw with Chivas. Also Josh Saunders, just monstrous for the Galaxy, because otherwise that's probably a Seattle victory. Let's take a final look at these standings from the 2012 regular season out east. As we said, and we knew this from midweek, Sporting Kansas City finishing up top, but then dropped down to 2nd place. DC United finishing in 2nd place. New York with 57 points with that win over Philadelphia. They're out of the knockout round. That means that Chicago will host Houston in the knockout round. Columbus with 52 points just missing out. No surprise out west, San Jose finished atop the heap with 66 points, but take a look at number 2 and 3. RSL retained that number 2 spot after Seattle's loss in LA. The Galaxy with 54 points, they're going to be hosting Vancouver in the knockout round on Thursday with 43 points. Playoffs, can you smell them? They're coming. We are pumped, so make sure you check back on the site all week. I'm going to be in LA for that game. This guy's going to be in Seattle. We're all over it. Enjoy the week.